What's up, guys? This is Ryan with the Packers Hub. Today we're going to be doing a 7-round simulated mock draft. I'll be going pick by pick and explaining guys that are on the board, guys that I think would fit the Packers' needs. And ultimately, I'll be going with the best player available. First round, I don't think we need to go corner. I wrote an article at thepackershub.com if you want to check that out, so don't be surprised if I don't pick a corner first round. But if there's a guy that's an absolute stud, yeah, I'm going to pick him. When you're doing this on the computer, this website tends to go a little slow, so I'll probably just edit out in between rounds after I make a selection and justify it and all that. So, yeah, with all that being said, let's draft. All right, guys, we are on the clock, and look who is still on the board, O.J. Howard. Now, do I see any scenario where O.J. Howard is still on the board? I don't see him being on the board past pick 12, to be honest. I think if he's there for the Browns at 12, they take him and don't look back. This guy ran a 4.51 at 6'6", 260 pounds, complete athletic freak. You saw during the national championship game against Clemson this year and the past year, there's one play where he took a swing pass out of the backfield and beat two DBs down the sideline for a huge gain. I mean, the guy is an absolute freak. If he's there for the Packers, it doesn't matter that we got Martellus Bennett and Lance Kendricks. He's the pick all day. But since I don't think he's going to be on the board, and I don't see any scenario where he's on the board at this pick, I'm not going to pick him. So we're just going to go ahead and look at some other guys. Dalvin Cook, I was a little disappointed in his 40 time. And when I went back and watched the film, he's just so explosive that he looks like he's faster than he actually is. Still love Dalvin. He's actually a pretty good receiving threat out of the backfield. Not a lot of people talk about that. There's a couple times where he ran wheel routes down the sideline and he would, pick up 30-plus yard gains, which is pretty good for tailback. Marlon Humphrey, big, physical, fast corner. I think he projects more as a strong safety because he's so physical. He's such a good tackler, and he plays better in space than he does man-to-man. But he could still be a really solid corner for us. I think we're probably very interested in him. Obi Melifonwu, one of those guys I think tested super well, but maybe might not be the best NFL player. I don't know. Just when I watch film on the guy, it's just he doesn't have it. He doesn't have that it factor where he's like that dude. And people are like, oh, he could be Cam Chancellor. I don't see Cam Chancellor at all. Tre'Davious White, I think another guy that we consider there. Charles Harris, I like a lot. Matt Miller from Bleacher Report thinks that he can be Justin Houston from the Chiefs. And if we can get Justin Houston, man, that would be awesome. So Garyon Conley, another dude that I really like. I think he projects to be Josh Norman in the NFL. I mean, the dude plays with amazing technique, can run like the wind, really good athlete, great man-to-man guy, would fit perfectly in our system. So, this one's tough. Charles Harris or Garyon. Dalvin Cook would be sick too, but I don't know if I want to do that. Ty Montgomery is going to be our guy this year. All right, since corner is so deep, I think I'm going to go ahead and do Charles Harris because if we can get Justin Houston out of Charles Harris, could you imagine Charles Harris and Nick Perry coming off the edge? And that's how you build a 3-4 defense. You start with the pass rushers. And so you have Nick Perry and you have Charles Harris and Clay Matthews. Oh, we're going to be incredible rushing the passer with those three guys. And this corner class is so deep, and I wrote an article at thepackershub.com about how I don't think we need to address it with premium picks. So I think we can still get a pretty solid player in the second or the third round. So Charles Harris is the pick here. All right, guys, we're back on the clock, and this is exactly why I didn't pick a corner in the first round. Look at who's on the board right now: Quincy Wilson, Sidney Jones, Tease Tabor, Fabian Moreau. Um, I mean, these guys are all, you know, top 10 corners. Fabian Moreau ran uh, 4.36 at the combine. Super athletic guy, pretty stocky. He's a pretty big corner, and he can run. He's really fast. I think that is something that's intriguing. But looking at Quincy Wilson, he's Matt Miller from Bleacher Report's #1 corner. Uh, Sidney Jones was Mike Mayock of NFL Network. He was Mike Mayock's #1 corner. Tease Tabor was a guy that was projected to go in the first half of the first round all day long until he ran poorly at the combine. So this is exactly why I didn't pick a corner. I mean, look at all these guys that we have to pick from right here. I think the guy that fits our system the best and the guy that I feel the most comfortable with is Quincy Wilson. The guy is 6'1", 215. That's strong safety size, and he plays corner. Super physical. He can jam you. He can play man to man. He has really good instincts to play in space. Um, I think he fits super well in our system. And he's one of the guys that just when I look at him, it's like he's not going to let himself fail. I feel that way with two other guys, Desmond Kane and Forrest Lamp. I look at those three guys and I think they're not going to let themselves fail in the NFL. When I look at Quincy Wilson, um, just a guy that is a competitor. He's going to get it done. He's going to put in the work he needs to put in, and he's just going to be a solid NFL player. So right now, Quincy Wilson is the best player on the board for the Packers and fills a need. All right, guys, we're on the clock in the third round, and looking at our options here, um, gotta say, some really good guys just came off the board. Joe Mixon and Jordan Lewis. Those are probably going to be my picks. Um, Looking here, Montravius Adams. He's a really, really dynamic athlete for a D tackle. I mean, the guy, uh, super quick, pretty actually fast straight line speed. Um, and one thing I noticed, if you watch Carl Lawson at Auburn, a guy that you always see uh, that helps Carl Lawson out. So Carl Lawson made a lot of plays and he had some nice statistics, but the guy setting all that up was Montravius Adams. I mean, Montravius Adams was all over the field. He's just such a good athlete. Um, I don't know if he's going to be here in the third round at the end of the third round, but if he is, that'd be nice. But we got Mike Daniels, Kenny Clark, LaTroy Guyan when he gets off suspension. We just signed Ricky Jean Francois, Dean Lowry looked pretty nice. Hopefully he takes a step. Um, Carlos Henderson, the guy is a monster. He's a yak monster. He catches the ball and he's gonna make several guys miss, and he's just gonna fight for extra yards. I think he had uh, twice as much missed tackles, forced missed tackles as the next wide receiver. He had like 80, and the next guy had 40. So Carlos Henderson would be very intriguing at the end of round 3. And Devontae Adams, his contract's up after this season, and I hope that we bring him back. But if we don't, Carlos Henderson would cushion that blow. Ethan Pochich, I think he could slide over to guard for us, and he's Pro Football Focus's #1 rated center, but I think he would project well as a guard as too. So that would be nice. Eddie Jackson, I do think we need a dynamic return guy, and Eddie Jackson could provide that for us. Will Holden from Vanderbilt, one of the candidates to slide into guard, and I got to be honest with you. I think that is the pick right here. Will Holden's solid. A lot of people think that he can be a top tier guard rather than a tackle. Right here, they have him listed at tackle, but he projects better as a guard in the NFL. And, this is right around our range for picking offensive linemen. Now, we picked D-back in the 4th round. We picked Josh Sitton and TJ Lane in the 4th round or later. Lane Taylor was an undrafted free agent. Corey Linsley was in the 5th round. This is right when we pick offensive linemen. And I think that Will Holden is going to be the pick here because I'm not in love with the rest of the guys on the board. So Will Holden is going to come in and compete for the starting guard spot day one. And I think he'd be pretty goddamn good. All right, guys. So we're here in the 4th round, and Ethan Pochich is still on the board. Now, that tends to happen in most of these mock drafts that I do. For whatever reason, Ethan Pochich will slide crazy far. But we already picked Will Holden, and I just read an article by Justice Mosqueda, and he said that Will Holden is Ted Thompson's ideal type of lineman to shift from tackle inside to guard. So I definitely really like that pick, and I think that's a solid pick for us. Looking at here, Taywan Taylor, Western Kentucky, big play threat, another yak monster that can create after the catch. He's really fast. Nico Saragusa, I think that's another guy that we could look at guard. But we already got Will Holden, so we're set there. But I do think that there's potential we could draft 2 inside offensive linemen this draft because we got Lane Taylor due for a contract, and we got Corey Linsley due for a contract. So with 3 inside positions looking uncertain after this year, yeah, I think we might go 2 inside linemen in the draft. But we already got 1, so I think that's good for now. So looking here, Taywan Taylor, yak monster. Deshaun Hall, I think is really interesting because the Packers, when he was going to Texas A&M, Ted Thompson sent a form to his high school coach asking about him, like information that they could store, just have on hand. And we've had his like high school stuff, all this time. So I think he's a guy that we're probably super comfortable with. We've known about him since high school. He fits a Julius Pepper type of mold. He's like 6'6", 260, pretty good athlete. Obviously got overwhelmed by Myles Garrett because Myles Garrett is going to be the number 1 overall pick if the Cleveland Browns don't mess it up. But Deshaun Hall was a really good player. Most coaches in the SEC said when they played Texas A&M that was the 2 best defensive ends that they were going to play all season. So Deshaun Hall is a guy that I really like. Isaiah Ford, I don't know why this guy isn't getting more love. I think he's a monster. He high points the ball. He's not that fast, but he high points the ball like a beast. He's really good at jump balls. Runs pretty good routes. A guy that I would really like a lot. Vince Beagle from Wisconsin. Justice Mosqueda did a comparison of Vince Beagle's combine numbers and Clay Matthews' combine numbers, and they're identical. Literally, the 40, 3-cone, short shuttle, bench reps, everything was pretty much the exact same, like dead on. And then you show college production, pretty much the same. Vince Beagle and Clay Matthews, I think that's a very good comparison. He's very high effort. He's going to give you it all week to week. D.D. Westbrook is a great college wide receiver. But I don't think that the Packers will ever consider picking him, no matter how far he slides, because of his off the field issues with domestic violence and all that. And he's pretty confrontational when you ask him about it. But D'Onta Foreman from Texas, right here, that's got to be the pick. You know, you lose Eddie Lacy, um, which I think that's a huge blow. I really wish Eddie would have came back, but that's a topic for another time. D'Onta Foreman, 6 foot, 233, ran pretty much a 4.4 flat at his pro day. The guy can absolutely motor down the field for how big he is. And he doesn't the one thing I would like to see him more from him is that he doesn't use his big body to his advantage all the time, whereas Eddie would run people over. D'Onta kind of tries to use his speed a little more, but he's so big that he could really use that to his advantage um, when he gets to the second level and other stuff like that. So I'd like to see that more out of him. But right here, I mean, I think that's definitely got to be the pick, D'Onta Foreman. You know, he comes in, he gives us a big back that we lose in Eddie Lacy. He's fast. Him and Ty, man, that would be a nice little 1-2 punch there. All right, guys, so we're on the board in the 5th round, and I'm a little disappointed because Jerron Jones is one of my favorite defensive linemen in this class, and I just saw news that Kawan Short signed a 5-year, $80 million contract, and I think Jerron Jones could honestly be that type of dude. Now, that's a bold prediction, but Jerron Jones, when he's healthy, the guy's explosive, he's huge, pretty good pass rusher for how big he is. You watch his game against Miami, and this guy had like 4 tackles for a loss and 2.5 sacks, and he was just everywhere, beating double teams, standing his ground in the run game. I really like Jerron Jones, but looking at who's on the board, we got Dwayne Smoot, and I don't know, man, because some people are super high on him, but I'm not really because he struggles to get off of blocks. Sometimes he goes into a pass rush without a plan of attack. He kind of just figures it out as he goes. You know, the elite guys, the good guys rushing the passer, they have a primary move about how they're going to go into the rush. And if that doesn't work, then they have a secondary move. So maybe they try a speed rush to the outside. That's not working. They spin back in. Dwayne Smoot, you know, if his bull rush or his swim or something doesn't move, it looks like he's kind of lost. So I'm not really too high on him. Looking at some other guys, D'Angelo Brown. We are in the 5th round, and people think that he's a really good run stuffer. But watching film on him, I don't know. I just really don't see it. He was really impressive at the Senior Bowl, but I don't know, man. He just wasn't everything that people were hyping him up to be when I watched. Now Bucky Hodges, I just saw that. How is Bucky Hodges still on the board? So I know I've mentioned Justice Mosqueda a few times, but he thinks Bucky Hodges is Mike Williams, just taller, just a bigger Mike Williams. So it's like you can draft Mike Williams in the 1st round, or you can draft Bucky Hodges, I guess, in the 5th. I don't see a scenario where he gets any later than the 3rd round. But oh my gosh, if Bucky Hodges is on the board, I'm just gonna go ahead and pick him and not even look back. Him in the Packers offense, that would be sick. He's 6'7", 245, ran a 4.57 for a tight end to be that big and to run 4.5. That's elite. That's insane. You watch him make crazy sideline catches at Virginia Tech. He's so big, no one can cover him. So he's too fast for linebackers. He's too tall for corners. He's a complete matchup nightmare. I love Bucky Hodges, and if he's in the 5th round, we take him and we don't even think twice. Now we have 2 picks in the 5th round, so let's see who else falls to us. Probably gonna go defense here. Let's see. All right. So we're back on the board. Damontae Kazee from San Diego State. I like him. A little slow, and the Packers need to get faster at corner. But this guy makes plays on the ball. I think he's a sleeper for sure because he makes plays on the ball. He's got good ball skills, and he's just solid. But I don't know if I'm comfortable. Blair Brown, pretty good instincts for a linebacker. Played at Ohio, so didn't play against the best competition. But you know, Matt Milano, a guy that I'm really intrigued by. He was really good for Boston College, and he just sticks people, man. You want to talk about hit stick? Matt Milano's got hit stick. He just lays dudes out. Stevie to Ikalabadabadu. I don't know how to say his last name, but from Southern California, from USC. Pro Football Focus, one of their analysts said that by the end of Stevie's first contract, he's going to be a top 5 run defender in the NFL. And that's exactly what I see on tape. I mean, this guy he's so big, you're not going to move him. He's just basically a rock at nose tackle. So we stick him at NT during run situations, and I think he'd be really valuable for us there. He's not going to give you anything in pass rush. So, he's a 1 or 2 down player. He's going to be elite at stopping the run, and he's not going to give you any pass rush ability. So, looking at the rest of the guys on the board here, let's scroll down a little bit, see what else we got. Dylan Cole and Juan Price. All right. I was about to pick Stevie because in the 5th round, you're looking for traits. And if one guy does something really well, then, that's probably going to be the guy that you want to pick because Stevie is a really good run defender. So that makes a lot of sense. But Juan Price, now this guy is 5'11, 240, and super undersized to be an edge rusher. But he doesn't care. You watch him at Pittsburgh. If this guy is 6'2", 255, he's a first round pick. I mean, the numbers that he put up at Pittsburgh, and he was just so solid week after week after week. He's always getting it done. He's always making plays. He's always getting tackles for losses, putting pressure on the quarterback. And who was the edge rusher for Baltimore these past few seasons? His name escapes me. Elvis Dumervil. That guy was 5'11", and he was a Pro Bowler a couple of times. He was one of the best edge rushers in the league at one point. I think Juan Price is that. I think he is that. Now, I don't think that the Packers will draft him because they have super strict height and weight standards. Like they won't draft a corner that's smaller than 5'10" and a half, even if he's 5'10" and 2/8 or 2/8, 5'10" and a fourth. They're not drafting him. So Juan Price, man, that's my guy. Dylan Cole, I think another guy that they could potentially pick here. But Juan Price, man, I think he's Elvis Dumervil. I think he can be great. I think a lot of people are underestimating him just because of his size. And as a football player that was pretty undersized, I got a soft spot for those guys. And Juan Price is gonna be the pick. All right, guys, we're on the clock in the 6th round, and I'm super disappointed because it looked like Stevie Monolonawuni was gonna be there for us in the 6th, but he got picked by the Redskins a couple picks before us, so that's disappointing. Looking at the rest of the guys on the board, Josh Carraway from TCU, I think he's intriguing, but a guy that kind of gets bullied, honestly, by like stronger O tackles. He's got a really small frame. If this guy went up against Trent Williams in an NFL game, he'd get buried every play. So not a guy, not a guy that he's athletic, he's kind of twitchy, but against those stronger O tackles, he's not gonna do a whole lot. Amba Edetawo. Now, if we hadn't picked Bucky Hodges, I think that's a guy I'd probably go with here. Uh, pretty athletic, pretty fast, big guy, big dude. And you watch him play at Syracuse. I mean, he's like the only bright spot on that team. The guy was pretty goddamn good. So I definitely would have given him a chance. Looking at other guys, Channing Stribling, too slow, too slow. I think at the combine he ran like, I don't know, 4.6 or 4.7, and we just don't need that in the secondary right now. We need speed. And you want to talk about speed? Brandon Wilson. I think Brandon Wilson is a Dory Jackson light. I love him right here in the 6th round. Honestly, I'd love him in like the 4th or the 5th round. A lot of guys falling here in CBS's rankings. So yeah, looking at Brandon Wilson, I think he's a dog. Tanner Vallejo. Some guys think that he's going to go in like the 3rd round. Injury concerns probably have him falling here to the 6th. The guy, has trouble staying healthy, but if he is healthy, the guy's pretty dynamic. I think he warrants 6th round consideration. Trayvon Hester, for the D lineman from Toledo, another guy that's not going to give you a whole lot pass rushing. Pretty good run stuffer though. Eric Wilson from Cincinnati, we brought him in on a visit. Chad Williams from Grambling, really interesting guy. Strong hands, just really good catching the football, fast. A guy that I'm intrigued by, but since we got Bucky, I'm not really looking to take another wide receiver. And considering how deep we are at wide receiver right now, not a position I want to invest in a whole lot. But Brandon Wilson from Houston. I said we need a returner. We need a guy that is dynamic right there. And having a Dory Jackson light is my cup of tea. So I will definitely take Brandon Wilson. All right, guys. So we're on the clock in the 7th round. And, here you're just looking for guys that are elite athletes, have decent traits. You're basically shooting in the dark and hoping you land on something. Avery Moss from Youngstown State formerly played for Nebraska, but was kicked off for exposing himself to like a woman in a parking lot or something crazy like that. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Uh, he's definitely dynamic, and I would love to even pick him in the 5th round, but since he's exposing himself to chicks in the parking lot, yeah, probably gonna pass on that guy. Jalen Reeves-Maybin, that's an interesting name because that's a guy that um people were projecting to go in the 2nd round before the season started. Does have a little bit of injury concerns and other things, but dude, honestly, if Jalen Reeves-Maybin is on the board in the 7th round, I mean, he's got to be the pick. So definitely gonna pick Jalen Reeves-Maybin, but I do like Hardy Nickerson from Illinois. Undersized, not that fast. So it's okay to be undersized and then be an elite athlete. Hardy Nickerson is undersized and not that good of an athlete. So that's why he's here in the 7th round. But the dude still makes plays. So he's still got pretty good instincts. His dad actually played for the Packers. And then looking at Samson Ebukam from Eastern Washington, the guy ran a 4.45 40 at his pro day. He's from Nigeria. You could say he's a pretty raw prospect, but you run 4.45, you're going to catch attentions from most NFL teams. So maybe a guy we pick in the 6th or the 7th round, maybe even undrafted free agency. We brought him in for a visit. I'd be very interested if that were the case. Don't be surprised if we bring in Avery Moss or like one of those guys with character concerns if they go undrafted. If we bring them in for a tryout or something like that. You know, we brought in the tight end from Oregon, Colt Laerla. We brought in Colt Laerla, and you know that guy had a rap sheet a mile long, but you know we brought him in, gave him a look for a tryout. He got a roster spot, not a 53-man roster spot, but you know he was good enough in his tryout to you know make the 90-man roster, and then we eventually cut him when he got pounded with like, or he got caught with like 10 pounds of coke or you know whatever it was. So we may take one of those character guys in undrafted free agency, but right here I think Jalen Reeves-Maybin, a guy that used to be mocked in like the second or third round. In the 7th round, that's just really good value. So Jalen Reeves-Maybin is going to be the pick. All right, guys, looking at our draft overview, we got Charles Harris, Quincy Wilson, Will Holden, D'Onta Foreman, Bucky Hodges, Ewan Price, Brandon Wilson, and Jalen Reeves-Maybin. This is one of my most favorite mock drafts that I've done. I mean, Charles Harris, like I said, Matt Miller thinks he can be Justin Houston, and that would be incredible for our defense. I mean, Justin Houston on any defense, anybody wants that guy on their team. So I definitely want Charles Harris on our team. Quincy Wilson from Florida, Matt Miller's #1 corner in the bottom of the 2nd. I'll take that all day. The guy can be an elite cover corner. He does everything well. Really good physical corner, man to man. Perfectly fits our scheme. Will Holden is, you know, Ted Thompson's ideal tweener offensive lineman that we can slide into guard. I think he'd be really good for us. It says we didn't pick a guard, but Will Holden is gonna slide into that guard spot. We can finally solve all of our worries for that spot. And looking at the 4th round, D'Onta Foreman. I mean, this guy, he helped himself so much in the pro day that he's probably going to go in the 2nd or the 3rd round. But maybe with the devaluing of running backs, maybe he slips to the 4th, and that would be an amazing pick for us there. But I think the steal of the draft, Bucky Hodges at the bottom of the 5th round, that's just incredible, man. I mean, Bucky Hodges, we could play him outside at wide receiver because, to be honest, he's not going to give you anything blocking. I mean, he's not an inline tight end. This guy, I think, he can play outside wide receiver, and you just throw it up to him. He's 6'7", has a 38-inch vert, runs a 4.57. Do I need to say anything more? Aaron Rodgers just throws it up in the air, and this guy's going to catch it pretty much over anybody. He's going to be taller than any corner that he goes up against. Probably has a better vertical than most corners that he's going to go against. And you know he runs as fast as Richard Sherman, a 4.57. That's the same 40 as Richard Sherman. So you know with that combination of size, speed, and athleticism, I mean that's just a steal of the draft right there in the 5th. Ewan Price, I think he can be Elvis Dumervil. I think he can be a really high caliber player. You know he's going to be like a situational edge rusher. We're probably not going to put him in on 1st down against the run. That's going to be more for Charles Harris and Nick Perry. But yeah, Ewan Price, I think he'd be really, really good for us rushing the passer. Brandon Wilson, like I said, Adoree Jackson Light, pretty good return guy. He's got some tools at corner that Joe Witt can mold into something special. You know, that's a specialty, man. Taking late round guys, turning them into solid corners. Tramon Williams undrafted, Sam Shields undrafted, Ladarius Gunter undrafted, and the jury's still out on Ladarius, but Sam Shields, Tramon Williams, you know, guys like that we've brought in and just turned into big time, big money corners. I think he can do the same with Brandon Wilson. And then Jalen Reeves-Maybin, really good athlete, a guy that was projected to go high early in the process. Now falling into the 7th, I think he makes a ton of sense to pick there because we're not bound to our 7th round pick. It's basically undrafted free agency at this point. So if he doesn't pan out, he doesn't pan out, and if he pans out, it's going to be pretty good for us. So no harm in taking him in the 7th round. I think we had a great draft, and you know, we filled some needs, and Bucky Hodges, oh my gosh, just imagining him in our offense, that would just be nuts. So yeah, guys, that's the 7th round mock draft. Be sure to tune in to the PackersHub.com for articles. I'll be doing a couple videos a week, and if you like what you're seeing, check out my Patreon, support the page, and yeah, guys, that's all. So I'll see you next time.